So welcome to everybody this evening. This is very exciting for us here at ANLP because this is our first virtual live workshop. We have a series of them coming up over the next few months, all being run by various ANLP members. So I'm delighted to welcome Fiona Campbell, who is running our first virtual workshop, and the title of this is Using NLP Skills to Navigate Change. So Fiona, over to you, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this for us.
Okay, it's an absolute pleasure. I mean, this is what I spend most of my time doing, which so it's lovely to be able to share. So just so we get an idea of who's in the room, if you can put in the chat, do you use NLP skills for business at all? Because I specialize in NLP for business and coaching. And if you can just maybe put a little bit of where you're joining us from, and also to put in the chat if you use NLP skills for business or not, and also what are you looking to get from tonight? And that just gives me a little idea. Okay, that's lovely. Oh yes, I like it. You use NLP skills in your business, Karen. Of course you do. Okay. Because it's always nice to just so people can get an idea of who's here. And hi, Silky, how are you doing? Nice to see you. I know Silky's joining us from India.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good evening, ma'am. Yes, good night.
Fantastic. Lovely to see you. Okay. Helen, joining Northern Ireland, use NLP in my business to help leaders run their business. Okay, fantastic. Okay, while you're putting that here, let me just give you an idea of what we're going to do tonight. We're going to run for about an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour to an hour and 50 minutes. I want this to be a little bit of a discussion, maybe talking about some of the things that maybe you use your NLP skills for change, because this is all about NLP skills in business. But also what I've put together, I've actually put together a workbook. You would have found the workbook on, there's a web page, and that every slide that we've got today is available on that workbook for you. So Karen will make sure she sends, if you don't already have the details, we'll make sure before we finish, we all find out where to get the workbook from this. Because I really believe in sharing resources. And I've been working with NLP now for over 30 years.
Thank you.
And if you're not, sorry, can I just say, if you're not on mute, if you could just put yourself on mute, because we don't like to just suddenly press a button, put everyone in mute. So that's lovely. I've got introduced to NLP about 30 years ago, and I have been delivering NLP Business Practitioner, Business Master Practitioner, and now Business Coach since 2005. And as well as doing that, I'm also a corporate trainer. I do a lot of corporate training. So this is what we're covering tonight is a lot of the NLP skills that I've been using very, very successfully to help a lot of leaders. Yeah. Oh, someone just said,
oh, yeah.
Something not, did I hear my name mentioned? Can you hear me okay? Sorry, I just heard a shouting there, but that's okay. And you can see me okay and you can hear me okay, yeah? Okay, fantastic. So what I'm sharing tonight is a lot of the things that I've been using, because I like to make NLP really, really simple and very, very, very easy to use. So let me just go and we'll start with sharing the screen here. Tonight, it is all about using NLP skills for navigating change. Engaging others to embrace change. Before navigating change in business, it's important to help all stakeholders understand the value of change and help everyone impacted by the change buy into the change process. I don't know what your experience is, because I see that quite a few of you actually are using your NLP skills, executive coaching, and also for business. there's a lot of change programs get run out, and all these experts come in and say, yeah, we're gonna mess everything up and we're going to completely freak you out. And they forget about the people. They forget about the buy-in. So I want to be able to show you some of the things that actually happen to people in this process. The aim of this workshop is to demonstrate the use of NLP skills to prepare people to manage change in business, to help deliver a smooth change experience. So this is all about you taking what we're covering in this workshop and maybe applying it with your own clients, whether you're actually applying it with businesses you're working with so you can get involved in change processes, maybe to help those of you who are not yet using your NLP. Me, really elegant use of NLP skills. This is advanced communication skills. So hopefully it's helping you understand that there's lots that you can do for business. In their book, Timeline Therapy and Basis of Personality by Tad James and Wyatt Woodsmall, they identified 5 to 10% of people use sameness, 55 to 65 use sameness with exceptions, 20 to 25 use difference with same, 5 to 10% use difference, which tells us that up to 75% of people prefer things to stay almost the same. So no wonder change programs are one of the biggest challenges for companies to implement smoothly. Now, all these, I'm happy for you to take photographs of the slides, but all this information is in the workbook, okay? So there has always got to be a valid reason for change. There's companies out there, and I've worked for quite a few of them, both as working in the companies, because I come from Xerox. I worked with Xerox, I worked with Yellow Pages, I was in sales for 25 years. And there's a few companies out there that are well known for having what's known as the revolving CEO. Does anyone know about that? The good old revolving, they get a 2-year stint, and then they come to the UK, and then they go to maybe Canada, and then they go to maybe the Middle East and Africa. And they just come in and put their stamp on however the company's been running. And it's incredible how much shaking up goes on and how much people can really have their, you know, their productivity impacted by people just coming in and doing change for change's sake. So one of the first things in any change program, and if you're working as a consultant, these are the type of things that you can tell your clients. Changing things just for the sake of it does not work. There has to be a valid reason for making change, and it must benefit employees, customers, suppliers, and communities. So people have to be able to say, what's in it for me? What am I going to get from this change? Because if that's not happening, you aren't going to get people working with you for change. So that's one of the things I will sit down with my clients and we'll look to see, okay, how's this going to benefit your staff? How's this going to benefit the company? How's this going to benefit your customers? How's it going to benefit maybe some of the new sustainable processes that are coming out, the social responsibility? There's all these different things that you can look at, because if they're not there, people will not, they won't agree to change, because we don't like change. All changes causes disruption for the majority of people. This is a fact. The majority of people will get disrupted. Now, in fact, we know that something as simple as asking someone to change a desk can trigger a threat response. When the threat response is triggered, our prefrontal cortex shuts down, and this is the part of the brain responsible for problem solving, cognitive thinking, and controlling our emotions. This means that people will not be in the best state to manage the change process. When people understand the value of change and the benefit this will bring to them personally, this reduces the threat state, and they become much more likely to buy into the change process. I bring quite a lot of neuroscience into the work that I do with companies, because a lot of people now, they want to see evidence, and this is what's so exciting about our field of NLP now. A lot of what we've all been doing for years, that I've been doing for over 30 years, was very much theoretical. But what's starting to happen is the neuroscientists are understanding and proving a lot of what we do. You know, they can now tell what's going on in the brain. We've known there's been changes going on in the brain, but they can now pinpoint it. And it can be something as simple as, I spoke about moving a desk. That can cause it. Now, when someone goes into a threat response, it's fight or flight. They're literally in fight or flight. So prefrontal cortex closes down and they cannot think. Now, ways that this can get triggered in change management processes is maybe someone not being CC'd into something, or maybe someone understand, you know, so people have been given a message, or people getting called into a meeting and that's not getting cascaded. Now, people don't have to know everything, but they might, people need to be signposted as to where you're taking them so that they can relax. So it's understanding that, who are you talking about the change? Who are you including? Who are you not including? Because if it's only one or two people that you're not including, you're going to cause a huge threat response to these people. Also, as human beings, think about when a disaster happens, a tsunami or a plane crash or something like that. The first thing that comes up is a helpline. Now, that helpline is there. The helpline isn't there to tell people exactly what's happening. It's just to signpost people to where they'll get more information. So taking people through the change process, sometimes you've got to just signpost, we'll have another announcement to let you know what's happening next week. And sometimes that's just enough for people to go, oh, that's okay. And they come out of this threat response. So it's helping your clients understand what they're actually doing with the physiology of the brain to people through the change. Now, to help someone to become motivated to achieve anything, you have to work with their map of the world first. Find out what fits with them. Now, some of the tools an NLP professional has are the VAK communication model, well-formed outcomes, creating clear timelines, the NLP meta model, matching meta programs, eliciting and anchoring motivational states, and using the value model. Sorry, I've just seen a spelling mistake there. Using the value, and the value model is a model that I've put together that works very well with helping people that feel calmed. So you all know this. You all know that, in fact, before I just show this one, let me show you that. And again, I want to show you how I introduce NLP for people who know nothing about NLP. So I just want you to do this. And those of you who've just joined us a little while ago, if it's possible to put your cameras on, that'll be fantastic. So I want you just to close one eye and look here. And I want you to start looking around the room. Okay. And then just stop at one point and go in really deep. Really start to look very, very closely at what you're seeing just in this tiny little piece here. So what this is this is a metaphor of how we create our map of the world. So you can have one person, when you take your hand away, you're all in the room you were in, but when you were doing that, you only saw a tiny part of the world. Now, what can happen is someone can be seeing a change process from here, and someone can be seeing the change process from here, and they end up clashing, but actually it's the same process, but they're just looking at it from a different angle. And I just think it's a lovely way of actually introducing the way we create our map of the world. This is another one that I use. I use this slide with all my corporate clients. So what we have here, it's 40, there's going to be 40 images come up. I want you to imagine that they are all high definition movies running. So you've got 40 high definition movies. What we are running, that's what's on that screen. We're actually, it's the equivalent of running 40,000 high definition movies at any one point of time. That's the amount of information that we are taking in. And we can focus on approximately an A4 document. Now, in my 30 years, that number, now I've now been told it's 3 terabytes of information. Now, if you think about it, if you go into, you know, minute, you can see where these numbers build up. I don't care if these numbers are right or wrong. What I do know, and what has been absolutely consistent, is we are taking in massive amounts of information and we only focus on what we want to focus on. So the people, everyone who's here on this workshop, you all get your own individual workshop. No two people are taking in the same information. So when you're trying to cascade information, it's really important that you understand that. That just because you've said something to someone doesn't necessarily mean they mean it. So our map of the world, as you know, is that we're all creating our own unique perspective of the world, known in NLP as our map of the world. We've got 4 maps here, and they're all completely different. So we all create our own unique perspective of any given situation by the way we sort and filter information from the outside world through our experiences, beliefs, values, etc. I like to talk about the inside world and the outside world. The inside world is everything inside your skin. And it's things like your feelings, your beliefs, your hopes, your dreams, your expectations, your fears, your confidence, your values, your experience, your disappointments, your knowledge, imagination. And we've also got your emotions, your resilience, your strength, everything like that. That's all in your inside world. Nobody's inside world is the same as anyone else's. We all create a unique inside world. Then the outside world, you have change programs, family, friends, colleagues, home, office, products, services, results, targets, KPIs, actions, and stuff. Again, this is to help people that don't know what we know to understand that we're all unique. And the number of times I'll say in business, no, put your hand up if you believe we all create our own perspective of the world, and everyone's hands go up. And then as you go through the training with them, they start saying, oh, and they get really confused about, oh, but I didn't know that actually, this is what it means. It actually means we have to go into the way someone's thinking. And we all are able to do that. And this is what NLP training does. Is it helps you as NLP professionals really get into someone's inside world. So we're going to do an exercise in a couple of moments. So if I can have as many cameras on as possible for this would be great. So we've got the communication process. So there's a meeting about a change process. I've just noticed this guy's he's end up with 2 heads here. We've got a meeting at a change process, as a meeting for change process. And the person who's in the meeting, they come out of the meeting and they've been in there for 2 hours and they have to cascade this information to people in 10 minutes. So they have to delete, distort, and generalize. We know that's what happens. People are creating, when they're creating their map of the world, they're creating their edited version. So it's their own edited version of whatever it is that they've actually been in seeing. So when that person is then passing on that information, they're deleting. So they've deleted and distorted and generalized when they were in the meeting. They've just paid attention to what they want to know. Then when they're passing it on to someone, they're deleting, distorting, and generalizing. This person who's listening is deleting, distorting, and generalizing. When they're talking again, they're passing on the information, they're deleting, distorting, and generalizing. The person who's listening to that is deleting, distorting, and generalizing. And then when they pass on that information, it normally goes to a blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I would like to show you this. And the reason I would like to show you this here is I take my corporate clients through this. If I'm working with change, I take them through this exercise. In fact, I'm down in the Midlands at the moment with a company who's booked us to put every single member of their staff through this particular exercise as part of a half-day training for them to help them understand how they create their own map of the world. So I would like about 3 or 4 volunteers. Okay, or I can volunteer you, or you can volunteer yourself. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pass a message on. I'm going to give a message, and the person who is receiving the message, first of all, will be receiving the message from me. Okay. The next person that receives the message, they do not repeat the message from what I said, they have to repeat the message from what the person before said. Because if they go back to what I said, so if the second person, the person I give the message to, if they miss something, and they will miss something, it's going to go to blah, blah, blah. So it's to understand this is going to happen. And maybe Karen and Cash, if you can join in this as well, this would be fantastic. So it will go to blah, blah, blah. You'll start to see the information disappearing. But the cool thing is we're going to do a second message, and I'm going to show you how by putting a strategy into passing on information, you can help the information to stick. Okay, so Sadia, may I ask you to do, if I pass the message to you first? Yeah, okay. So Sadia, and then Sadia, if you can pass the message to Lynn. Lynn, is that okay? Yeah. Lynn, if you can pass the message to Karen. And Karen will just give us the message, and then we'll get some other volunteers, like the word volunteer being used very loosely here. We'll get some other volunteers for the next one. Okay, so Sadia, I want you to pay attention, and I want you to, everything I say, everything I do, including gestures, hand gestures, voice tone, and maybe the position of my head. So you'll do that, and then you'll pass the message on. Okay, so British Airways removed 1 olive from their first class starter. They saved £5,400,000. Their service was not affected and their customers were happy. Off you go. So you're going to Lynn. It's okay.
This is a bit of a tough one.
It's okay. Just do
And
what you
like,
think.
Okay.
What you think you heard. Fabulous.
So, Lynn, sorry, I'm gonna make a whole hot pot of it. It's my midnight, and
It's okay.
I'm half asleep.
Okay. It's
But
okay.
So Lynn, here's the message. So British Airways removed 1 olive from their starter, and in this process they made 4.5 million pounds.
Yeah.
4.5 million pounds.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Lynn, okay.
Okay. So British Airways removed 1 olive from their starter, and through the process made £4.5 million.
Okay. And Karen?
British Airways removed 1 olive from their starter and made £4.5 million.
Okay, fantastic. So we missed all this got deleted out. Okay. So let me just give the message again. British Airways removed 1 olive from their first class starter. They saved £5,400,000. The service was not affected and their customers were happy. Fantastic. Even when we do this in corporates, everyone messes it up. It's incredible. Normally, right from the first person, you normally get all the deletion, distorting, and generalization happens. Okay, Bibian, could I ask you to do the next one? And then is it CJ? Are you okay to come in for this one, CJ? And then CJ, if you will pass the message on to Cash. Okay. Now, this time we're putting a strategy in place. Okay. So the rabbits, if you want to follow me, Bibi, in this one, the rabbits, you can say it out loud. The rabbits.
The rabbits.
Value.
Value.
Was not.
Was not.
In its hop.
In its hop.
Okay, so do that again, just that one.
The rabbit's value was not in its hops.
Okay. The birds.
The bird's
value.
Values.
Was not.
Was not.
In its flight.
In its flight.
Okay, so put the two together. So
okay, so the rabbit's value was not in its hops. The bird's value was not in its flight.
The fishes.
The fish's
value.
Value
was not.
Was not.
In its swim.
In its swim.
Okay, so do that again.
Okay, from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yep. So the rabbit's value was not in its hops. The bird's value was not in its flight. Oh, the fish's value was not in its swim.
The value is within.
The value is within.
Let the journey begin.
Let the journey begin.
Okay, so do it from the top again.
Yep. The rabbit's value was not in its hops. The bird's value was not in its flight. The fish's value was not in its swim. The value is within. Let the journey begin.
Fantastic. Okay, so CJ, have you, so Vivian, you pass that message on to CJ now.
Okay, CJ, if you want to follow me along, I can't see you actually. I'm just going to move along my screen so I can see you. There you are, CJ. Right. Okay. So the rabbit's value is not in its hops. Do you want to do that now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't hear you, CJ.
Okay, yeah, sorry, there's some background noise. Okay, so the rabbit's value is not in its hops.
Mm-hmm. And then it's the bird's value is not in its flight.
The bird's value is not in its flight.
Yep. And so do you want to put the two together?
The rabbit's value is not in its hop.
Mm-hmm.
The bird's value is not in its flight.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so then the fish's value is not in its swim.
The fish's value is not in its swim.
Yep, so do you want to put the three together?
Yeah. The rabbit's value is not in its hop. The bird's value is not in its flight. The fish's value is not in its swim.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think there was another one. And I'm
Right.
going to say the value is within. Let the journey begin.
The value is within. The value is within. Let the journey begin.
Okay,
Okay.
so CJ, you just give that message. Just give the message to Cash now. Just give the whole message together.
Okay.
Okay.
Cash, the rabbit's value is not in its hop. The bird's value is not in its flight. The fish's value is not in its swim. The value is within. The value is within. Let the journey begin.
Okay, fantastic. So Cash, just give us the whole message. You're on mute. Okay, yeah.
The rabbit's value is not in its hops. The bird's value is not in its flight. The fish's value is not in its swim. The value is within. Let the journey begin.
Fantastic. Okay, so what did we do there? We've split things into three things. And we also gave Vivian plenty of time to rehearse and get to know it. How many times did I give the message verbally to Vivian? Is it Vivian? Is that the correct pronunciation? Yeah. How many times did I actually give Vivian that message verbally? Once.
Many times.
Once. No, I only gave it verbally once. Everything else was done with the signals, was done non-verbally. Okay. So when you teach people things about analog marking, if you teach people things to really act out, use their submodalities, act out when they're passing a message, that's, remember, 20 to 30% of our communication now is, neuroscience has agreed about 20 to 30% of the words we use, which means 70 to 80% now is voice tone and body posture. being very specific in how you move your body, how you can do spatial anchoring, you can do all sorts of things there. Test this, go and get something, and those that you see this on recording, this message is not in your workbook, but I actually use this message. I do these 2 messages with corporate. We'll do one tomorrow, and 20 people who completely go to blah, blah, blah the first time they do it. The second time, the message stays almost identical the whole way through. So this is a way to really help messages stick, helping people understand that we can, by using these skills that we know about NLP, how we process information. So to help reduce the impact of deleting, distorting, generalizing, passing on information, only communicate 3 main points at any one time. Be sure to communicate using all the senses, as this is the key to helping your message be both clear and helping it to stick. So it's understanding when you get people unconsciously connected with their senses, they remember things really clearly, because change management and navigating your way through change, it's all to do with communication skills. And this is where there's nothing to beat the NLP skills in my mind for communication. The VAK communicate, sorry, any questions with that or any comments before we move on to the next part?
Fiona, I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
Whenever you said you just communicated once, do you mean you just communicated verbally? The rabbit's value is over its hops, but then when you asked Vivian to say that out loud, it was her that was speaking and you were just making this language.
I was using the signs, because we split it into signs. So it was the rabbits, and we made the same sign for value.
Yes.
And we made the same sign for not.
Yeah. So you were not verbally saying it because you were hearing Vivian say it back to you while you guided her with the
I was guiding it, and when anyone got stuck a little bit, I was able to just do that, and people were getting that message.
Okay, thanks.
And thank you. I've tested this so much. It's incredible when you test it lots of times with groups. And what was lovely, we did a training about 4 weeks ago where we went back after 7 weeks into an organization, and the one guy stood up and said, hang on, I've just got to tell you. And he did the whole thing. And this was 7 weeks later. He said, I have taught this message to so many people, and now this is the structure I'm using my communication, and people are really starting to get so much more.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, right, that's fine. It's got plenty to go on with tonight. So the VAK communication model is based on the fact that the only way we make sense of the world and can communicate with each other is through our senses. According to the VAK communication model, most people will possess a dominant or preferred learning style. However, some people will have a mixed and even balance of all 3 styles. The skill of an NLP professional calibrating through eye-access cues and representational systems, the different VAK preferences that the people that lead and coach use. The VAK communication is a tool that helps you understand the overall personality, preferences, and strengths of the people you work with. So understanding that even if you've got a group, if you're passing on information to a group, you have to have a visual element. You have to have an auditory element, a discussion element to get people to answer, ask questions, and you have to have a kinesthetic. And we've just did that was the kinesthetic part we just did there, getting people to take part. Because when you take part in something, you'll always remember it. Or making sure you've got handouts. You're actually handing people information. It could be, the diary of the change process, or a workbook, or a handbook that you put together. So the VAK for communicating change: create a visual element, slides, pictures, videos, diagrams, and charts. Create an auditory element, questions, chat, discussion. Make sure that your communicating as a logical thread with a beginning, a middle, and an end. People really have to have, especially high auditories, they're very linear in the way they're processing information. So you really have to have the beginning and middle and end. Create a kinesthetic element by having instruction handouts, include demonstrations and practical exercises so people can learn by doing. So it's things like, I had a client of mine that he did his NLP Business Practitioner with us, and he took his managers. It was the NHS. He was the maintenance director for 4 NHS hospitals, and he identified, I'm going to go through meta programs in a few moments, but he identified the different meta programs and also brought in the visual, audio, auditory and kinesthetic. The last change program, it was a change in the software, and it was still going through. It had been going on for 2 years. They still didn't get it. He then took what he learned in the business practitioner, and he came back to me and he said it was like waving a magic wand. Everything was integrated in about 5 weeks. Okay. So Bibian, what techniques do you use for kinesthetic and when engaging over Zoom and Teams? Exactly what we did here. Get people doing things. So I will send, depends if for example, I'll give you an example. My business practitioner, I send out really nice, I've got very nice workbooks. So I send out the printed copies of the workbooks, and they actually work through their workbooks. Yeah. So even with Zoom, just getting people, because it's not only touch with the kinesthetic, it's getting people involved in a demonstration. So if it could be sharing screens. So if it's a new process that's been done, you get people to share their screen and maybe have a go going through the process. Has that answered your question? Yeah.
Fiona, before you continue, there was another question from CJ.
Yeah.
Do you find that the vast shift to virtual communications, particularly during COVID, has affected the efficacy of NLP?
No, it's made it better, much better, because NLP trainings in person anymore. There'll be an in-person element for people who can make it to the UK, but we're finding people are learning so much better in the online, and especially with breakout rooms, because breakout rooms are personal and private. You can be in there with 2 people or 3 people actually trying things out, and you're not another group you're not comparing yourself to another group. So for me, it's completely taken the learning to a totally different level. I've got a guy who came on to the business practitioner 2 years ago, just at the beginning of COVID, and he's now a mentor with John Grinder's training. And that was in a year and 8 months through the online trainings that we've been doing with him. So for me personally, some people won't agree. I still like the personal element for practice, for some practice, but the learning side of it is much more, it seems to stick much more. Okay, so again, create unspecified elements by providing accurate facts and figures. According to Social Science Research Network, 65% of people are visual learners. People retain 80% of what they see compared with 20% of what they read and only 10% of what they hear. We don't have figures for when people actually do something. I think they retain nearly 100% when they do it, but that's research according to me. Okay, so then create a common goal for the change. People have to be clear as to where they're going. When there's a well-formed outcome, so common goals only get achieved when there's an absolute well-formed outcome. The purpose of the change is understood and accepted. That's important. There's a clear action plan with times and dates. The people working towards the goal feel valued, appreciated, listened to, understood, and encouraged. Only when the common goal is clear can each person involved set their individual goals. When someone sets their own goal, they're much more likely to feel involved in the project and become personally responsible for what is being achieved. So this is what I do for well-formed outcomes. I introduced the SMART goal, which is well known in business. Lots of people know about SMART goals in business: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. However, to turn a SMART goal into a well-formed outcome, well, in fact, I'll ask you, what do you think is the difference between a SMART goal and a well-formed outcome? something that, because I do so much, and I'm also an executive coach, so I work with a lot of people who are used to setting goals. You can set a smart goal out here and it's totally disassociated from you. Yeah, I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to achieve that, I'm going to achieve the next thing. And we know from model operators, you'll hear it with model operators, where someone's sticking the goal here and it's nowhere near their timeline, it just sits there, and then they wonder why it doesn't happen. When we're going into well-formed outcomes, we're connecting people to their goals.
It's taking them through the VAK, isn't it? In terms of imagining and realizing and hearing and seeing, achieving that outcome.
Yeah, and the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So the more real you can be, and this is what Olympic athletes do. This is what the tennis players in Wimbledon are doing. They mentally rehearse to the point that when they don't do what they've mentally rehearsed, they get quite annoyed with themselves because it should have happened in a different way, because the brain thinks it's already happened. So stated in the positive, say what you want to happen, not what you don't want to happen. And again, when you're working with people in business, the number of times people will set goals saying, I don't want this to happen, I don't want this to happen. We don't want to be worried about, the change process is not going to be difficult. Or you'll get people actually setting it up and saying, now, as we go through change, we're going to have real problems and you'll all find it really difficult. Wonderful post-hypnotic suggestion that you're giving to people, rather than saying, this is easy. We're going to make this as easy and simple for you as we can. Desired state must be in the control of the person setting the goal. This is why you have to have the overall goal, and then you have to break that down to individual goals for the people that are all pulling this together. Because if not, it comes under this wonderful magical we. And the wonderful magical we sits out here where no one actually takes personal responsibility. I also ask when I'm working with clients for well-formed outcomes, when they're setting their goals, I make sure they use the word I. And in business, you'll get pushback with this. No, we're a team, we're a company. I'll say, yes, of course you're a team, you're a company. And we is absolutely appropriate to use when you're talking about team, the company. But when you're talking about what an individual has to achieve, it has to be the I. I will do this, because what gets measured gets done. And there you go, just exactly what you were saying, Vivian. Can you see here, feel, maybe smell and taste what it's like when you achieve this? And we do this by going into a state of, a motivational state and transferring that state. Ecology check. How will this affect family, friends, health, job, etc.? So the ecology check when you're helping companies set goals for change is you have to say, right, how's this going to affect people? And get people thinking about the impact this change is going to have on the people that they're taking the change process. And if you've never done this before, it's fabulous when you get a chance to do it, because you'll see people going, what? And they get totally amazed that there's all this work has to go into helping people get the mindset right before they start. But when the mindset's right, guess what happens? The change becomes easy. And for me, I believe the people who do this best are either consciously NLP trained, or the type of people who have all these incredible skills already. Because remember, all these skills were all out there because that's where NLP came from, modeling excellence. So there's a lot of people who've never been on any NLP training know all this stuff. But very often they don't know it consciously, but we know we're doing this consciously. And then this is the checklist for smooth change. Has someone made the decision to achieve this? Has someone actually made the decision that they're going to go through the change process? What motivates and inspires them to achieve this? Do they have the skills and knowledge to do this? Have they done this before? Do they know the steps? How will they know? How will you know when they have achieved this? How will they measure the outcome? So these are some of these questions that you can ask. And how committed are they to achieving the goal? And again, it's all about engaging all the senses as you go through it. And you can only engage all the senses when you have a clear outcome of where you want to take people. Okay, so before, just so the next part in that is make sure the goal is on your timeline or on the individual's timeline. So I want you just to show me, and those of you who are not on camera, it's all right, I'll just trust that you're pointing. So I would like you to point to, where's your future? Use your left or right hand to point to where your future is. Okay, now for some people it's there, some people's there, some people's there, it doesn't matter. Now, with your other hand, point to a goal that you've never achieved. Point to something you would like to achieve, but you never achieved. It's never on the timeline. Never, ever on the timeline. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that the goals that people are looking to achieve are actually on their timeline, and they've got a submodality on their timeline. So one thing you can take from tonight is you can maybe move that thing you haven't achieved yet onto your timeline. You can switch it onto your timeline and then see what happens. See if all of a sudden you start finding it gets done. So it's NLP timeline refers to the way we organize the concept of time and the inside. Everyone needs a way to differentiate between personal, past, present, and future. Make sure that people can see their goals and their timeline, and they have a visual, they're creating a visual submodality of achieving it. So I test my clients, you know, I'll say, so where are you seeing this happening? And, you know, I get them pointing to submodalities. I get them completely connected with it. And it's interesting, and actually sometimes I haven't gone into lots of details of timeline here, but sometimes I will get people to walk out, you know, get them to walk out, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 people all walking out together to work out how the, you know, who's to do what, so they get the critical path. Any comments or any feedback from that so far? Are you finding this useful? Yeah, if you can actually put in the chat at this point in time, what are you taking so far? So if you just put, let's take a minute to just put in the chat what you're taking away so far from this. And what we can do, Karen, we can actually put the chat, so we can, because you'll have the chat, we can put the chat below the transcript of that below. Because this recording will actually be on the web page that's been put up for this. Okay, thanks, Karen. So it's combining skills we already know to achieve something specific. Yeah. To be more proactive around using NLP to influence the conversations around the change process. Yeah. It's understanding. For me now, I'm seeing that the barriers are dropping for business. Business before, there was quite a lot of barriers on that NLP stuff. But again, it's how you frame it, how you set it up. And it's actually helping people understand its communication skills, advanced communication skills. Then you get people to create their roadmap, and they set their goals using present tense. So I have, or present or past tense. So I achieve this by this, or I have achieved this by this. So you're setting future memories for them. Okay, so it's I am, I am, I am. Okay, now this is the one I love, the NLP meta model. Absolutely love the NLP meta model. And I have spent about the last 20 years putting this into a business context. And we've got, as well as the workbooks, there's a link that we've got for you for my NLP for Business toolkit. It's a free toolkit, so you can get hold of that as well for now. So the NLP meta model is the information gathering and problem solving tool of NLP. When you ask purposeful questions from a state of genuine curiosity, this helps you really connect with, engage, and motivate others. You get a much clearer picture of the internal maps that the people you're working with are creating. So you know it was created by Bandler and Grinder, and the model gives you the structure for crafting questions to retrieve information that someone has distorted, deleted, and generalized in their map of the world. This helps others connect with their inner resources, come up with possible solutions, and become more confident and motivated. So especially in change processes, you'll get lots of surface structure conversations, just edited maps of people's worlds. You're just giving you all, it's all just in the surface structure. And you know, at the deep structure, that's where the actual experience, that's what they're actually experiencing. And then through meta model questions, you're retrieving information from the deep structure and you're helping these people expand their map of the world. So it's really enriching their map of the world. So this is where you can find out limiting beliefs, you can find out the problems, you can find it. It's the wonderful thing about using the meta model is you need rapport. People need to trust you because you're really getting into their heads. You're getting into their fears, especially around change. But once people feel comfortable to answer the different meta model questions, you get things done, you know, it just makes situations really clear. Now, I'm going to go through this quickly, this part here, because I've condensed it. I've really just condensed the patterns. So using the NLP meta model elegantly in conversation encourages people to open up to you and discuss possible challenges and limiting beliefs they may have around the change process. Being able to use the NLP meta model questions is essential for facilitating smooth business change. Myself and quite a few of my associates, I've got one associate in particular, Annette Palmer. She specialises in change management, and she says she couldn't do it without an NLP training to the level she does. It's just, and she says this is where you get the real powerful questions. So we've got the 5 distortion patterns, the mind read. How do you know? You want to clarify what someone is saying is really happening, or is it just their edited version of something? Cause effect. I like to, something or someone makes me feel. When someone is making a cause effect statement, they believe that how they are feeling is caused by another person or event and has nothing to do with them. Complex equivalent, which part of the sentence is true? Making 2 separate sentences both appear true by saying them together. Often you will hear people put 2 standalone sentences together, and as long as the first one is true, we just assume the second one is also true. I'm not going into examples of this, but I just wanted to give you a very condensed version of this. Nominalization, when a word that should be a verb or action is turned into a noun. When you hear someone using lots of nominalizations, it can often mean they're stuck. So especially in the change process, denominalizing, just denominalizing starts the submodalities moving and gets people out of a stuck state. Then the lost performative, the according to whom. This is when this happens. So you'll hear hundreds of lost performatives in a change. This is when something is stated as a fact and we don't know who originally made this statement. Often these are judgment statements and no one tends to question who made that judgment and what if they were wrong. So that's your distortions. Deletions, simple deletion, a lot of information is missing. People often delete so much information that we're left with only 1 or 2 words. In business, a lot of people will delete so much, assuming everyone else knows what they're talking about. And just by getting, you know, chunking up and getting more information there. Chunking down and getting more information and saying, right, okay, you know, what specifically or who specifically are we talking about? Comparative deletion, who or what are you comparing to? People, especially in business, often compare themselves to others. Usually this is not a fair comparison because they could be comparing themselves to someone with much more experience. In a change environment, people will very often compare to a really horrible experience they've had before in change. So it's helping them understand that this is a different scenario and you're looking to make it much more easy for them to go through this. Lack of referential index, who or what's being referred to. The personal thing being referred to is not specified. When you're not clear as to what specifically is being referred to, this can create misunderstanding and cost time, money, and business. Clear communication only happens when we know specifically who or what someone is referring to. And then the unspecified verb. If you're not sure about how something is going to be done, you cannot be sure that objectives and targets will be met. Unless someone is brand new to the job, people tend not to ask how something is being done and often assume that things will be done effectively. This can be very expensive assumptions. So there you go, that's your deletions. And then you've got the three generalizations: universal quantifier, they all are nothings. This is when things become so generalized, there's no limit. They seem to become as big as the universe. This pattern is often used by people who are overwhelmed. I discovered this myself when I went through a really challenging time in my life. I won't go into the details of it, but in the middle of it all, I had to run an NLP Business Practitioner, and we had about 35 people on the course, and we're filming it. And it was, I think, 5 days after I lost my dad, but there was so many other things had gone on as well. And it was my assistants who noticed this. When I was up training and I was in flow, I was absolutely my normal self, the minute I came out of that state, I was generalizing, oh, we'll never be able to get through this. Oh, this always happens. And it was pointed out to me, you're generalizing. And then I started to notice that in business. Now, if you go right back to when we started about the threat state, if someone is in a threat state, they'll be generalizing. So I point this out, especially to leaders and managers, to help them. If someone starts generalizing and starts using always or never, you know, what happens is making a decision to, you know, a big business decision is the same. They can't prioritize that to, do I want a cup of tea or a coffee? All prioritization disappears. And that's when so many mistakes can make. So just noticing that this is a signal that your people are getting overwhelmed can be huge for leaders and managers to watch. Then modal operators are the words that require particular action, imply no choice. These are words that can limit someone's map of the world by determining the boundaries of the belief system. A modal operator is a verb that modifies how an activity is done and always precedes it. The modal operator we choose determines how we do something or not, even before we know what that activity is. I run the NLP Business Club. It's an online club for NLP professionals. And these are the things that we cover in the masterclasses. We go into this in great detail. And one of the things we do is one of the masterclasses we did, we broke down what people were actually saying that sounded as if they were being really active. And then when we actually went into the modal operators, they hadn't done anything at all. So remember, we've got superpower linguistic skills. That's incredible. And then this is the one that just pulls it all together. The presuppositions are the incomplete or unspoken parts of a conversation that must be assumed, presupposed to be there in order for the statement that someone is making to make sense. Presuppositions, all the things that are concealed in a conversation, but nothing would make sense without them. We unconsciously identify what's being presupposed when we're talking with others. The NLP skill is to become more conscious of what's being presupposed. So helping people understand, when we're going to presuppositions, I would say you have to be NLP trained to get really conscious about this. But you can teach people to do this. You can teach people to say, right, what are people assuming? What's not being spoken? What's not being said? And these are the things that have to be addressed when we're working through a change program. People could be telling, yeah, no, it's okay, it's fine. And you know, body language, you can see from their body language, voice tone, no, it's not fine at all. So we don't have the time to teach. I don't have the time to teach a lot of my clients the meta model unless they come on to my training. So I've actually created what's known as the splatter model. And this is a way that allows people to get the same information, not in the same elegant way, but really quickly. So all we're looking at is, and it took me years to realize this. I was training in NLP. I probably came up with this model just a few years ago. I suddenly realized you cannot make a submodality about anything until you know the situation of the person. I didn't know it. Of course, I knew that unconsciously, but I didn't know it consciously. So by taking this, by actually teaching people, when you're asking questions, find out, first of all, what's the situation or who's involved? That's the first question. It's either the situation question, it's the what question, or the who. Without that, you cannot make a picture. And then the location, where is it happening? And the action, how are they doing it? And then we've got the time. So when you go through that in order, now the location, the action, the time don't have to be in order, but you have to have the situation or the people or person or people first before you know what anyone's talking about. When you then consciously find out the where, the location, how they're doing it, and the time, you then get a really, really clear submodality. And then the last question you ask is the reason or motivation, which is the why question. Now, I can guarantee when you start talking to people in business about how they ask questions, change process, they lead with the why. The why is a brilliant question, but it will give huge pushback and huge defense, because a why goes straight into reason or motivation, and you've just dived straight into someone's inside world, and you've made them, it's into their values and beliefs, and you've challenged them straight away. When you gather that other information slowly, you help someone build a picture, and then you can ask, and I tend not to use the word why, I will tend to say, so what's the reason for this? What motivated you to do that? I actually use the words reason and motivation to determine the why. Okay, so that's my way of introducing the meta model, and I've found that the meta model fits into the splatter model, but that splatter model, it's so easy to teach in business, and please feel free to teach this to people, and experiment with it, because we'll be doing it tomorrow. We'll be taking guys who know nothing about NLP and giving them a structure to, these are the open questions. And these are open questions you get taught in sales, you get taught in all sorts of professions, but no one has ever taught me to do them in an order, in the order that we know fits with the way our brain's processing information. Okay, so then we've got meta programs. And then again, I've just really condensed the meta programs. Meta programs are powerful mental process that help people manage, guide, and direct their experience, help us decide what to pay attention to. This filtering process helps guide and direct our thought processes, resulting in significant differences in behavior from person to person. When managing change, understanding how different communicating styles interact in a team and the organization can be the difference between constant conflict and maintaining harmony. So the NLP meta program is not static and change over time and from context to context. And remember, when people are going through a change situation at work, the context has changed. So the state will change, and very often their meta programs will change. What I tend to find is the meta programs that they've developed in their professional persona, when someone is put in a stress situation, we default into our hardwired meta programs again. That's what I've noticed. Other people might say differently, but I've noticed it with myself, and I've noticed it with a lot of people I work with. People will use different meta programs according to different situations, how they're feeling, and according to the amount of stress they're experiencing. Knowing the NLP meta program someone uses can help to closely predict their actions. Now, there's no right or wrong way to filter information. This is just information that you're getting to help people move through the change process as smoothly as possible. Some patterns are more useful in a certain context than others. So they help you understand people, their psychological tendencies, and how to adapt and change your behavior and approach to others. These changes can improve your relationships with others by helping you to develop deeper levels of rapport, potentially influencing people to your way of thinking. This becomes possible because meta programs give you insight into a person's motivations, and once you understand the motivations, you have the key to help influence their choices, decisions, and actions. Now, it's not about for you to be the control freak. It's about for you to manage or help your clients manage the change process. So you want to influence and persuade people to move through the change process smoothly. And the meta programs can be huge for this. So again, I'm just giving you a quick overview of how I use it. People are not their behaviors, people do behavior. Now, the way that these are the meta programs I use, and I keep it really simple. Shelley Rose Gervais, beautiful book. I mean, she's got loads of stuff on YouTube, Words That Change Mind. There's so many different books on a lot of, so many people in the NLP world have actually specialized in meta programs, but these are how I use this for business. So we go 0 in the center, and then I like to go scale 5 to 1 and 5 to the other. So proactive, reactive is 1, towards away is 1, internal, external, options, procedure, different, same. That's all I tend to, that's the only meta programs I tend to use in business, because I want to keep it really, really, really simple so that people can help identify. So you might have someone where this is their graph, and then you've got someone with this as a graph. These people are going to go through the change process completely differently and need different communication styles. So most people motivate themselves by running more than one meta program. The following explanations will give you a starting point about what language and words to listen out for and how to match this. So we're working here with the level of motivation, reactive, proactive, direction, towards, away from, source, internal, external, reason, options and procedures, and decision factors, different and same. So proactive, doing things without requiring additional information. Reactive, now these are the NLP definitions according to how this fits for me in business. Reactive, incapable of moving until they have the right amount of information they need. When observing behavior, does someone take the initiative or wait for others to do so? So language to motivate, proactive, just do it, let's get on with it, go for it, let's go now, let's get started. Reactive, let's think about it, now you've analysed, think about your response, you will have everything you need, this will explain why, or you'll have plenty of time to research this, you'll have time to analyse this, you'll have time to get all the information you need. Towards and away from, towards, move towards goals, motivated by the pleasure they experience and they achieve something. Talk about goals, targets, things they will get and what they will achieve. Towards thinking of go-getters, these people are vital in getting things moving in a team. Away from, moving, motivated by the pain that could happen should they not achieve something. They will talk about everything they don't want to happen. Even when you ask them what they want, they will tell you what they don't want. Away from, thinkers are vital when critical evaluations and risk assessments are required. So you need both towards and away as part of a change management. But you cannot motivate everyone saying, this is what we're going to achieve. You motivate the away people by saying, this is what will happen if we don't achieve this. So again, and what's really weird, how many people use meta programs with their clients for business and motivation? It's really weird when you're using an opposite meta program from your own. It just doesn't seem right. But it's not about you, it's about the reaction with the other person. So language to motivate towards, here's what you can get, gain, obtain, achieve, etc. Away from, this you'll avoid, it will fix, you'll not have to deal with, this will prevent, this will get rid of, this will stop happening, and you won't have to. And then internal, external, no inside themselves, the internal, no inside themselves how they're doing. They refer to the I, they don't need anyone to validate them. They can find to tell them how they're doing. They will talk about the team manager, clients, etc. At the extreme end, they will require a list of tasks they have to do. There you go. What do you think? It's up to you. I suggest you think about it, try it out and decide what you want to do. It's been approved by, I would highly recommend, you'll make an impact, they will be impressed. The experts say others will notice. And you'll get feedback. That's the one that internal, external really want to get. They want to get feedback. Then options, last one here, options like freedom of choice, lists of reasons for doing things, and open to opportunities and possibilities. They enjoy finding out lots of new ways to do things and want to know why things are done a certain way. They're motivated by opportunities and possibilities and like breaking or bending rules. Often they're very enthusiastic starters and can be poor finishers. So you might want your options in the planning stage. You know, they can come up in different ways. They can see, you know, the different ways of doing things. And then you've got your procedure. Your procedure people are believe there's a right way to do things. They follow procedures exactly. They're interested in how to do things. They don't question why they have to be done. They follow rules and tend to get things done by the time they're required. So here are the options. There has to be a way. Is there a better way, an opportunity here? You can just throw out the rule book. An alternative here is. What choices are there? And then procedure. The procedure is the right way to do this. Give them step by step, firstly. Secondly, a reliable way, a proven methodology. And then last one here, different and same. So different need new things to do need to do new things constantly as they get bored doing the same thing. They enjoy challenges, new projects. They change jobs frequently as they lose motivation when they run out of new things to do. And same, like to have structure. They're comfortable and often can be the same job for years. They like to know what they're doing, can feel very uncomfortable with change. They're happy knowing that when they come to work, they're familiar with what they have to do as they know what's expected of them. So the different is new, totally different, never been done before, brand new, unheard of, the only one, unlike anything else, unique, innovative, and then completely change the way. And then same, exactly as before, unchanged, the same as you already know, maintaining, totally like, it's like, in common with. So we've just got a couple of things to go on with this. I know I'm doing a lot of talking with this, but I really wanted this to be a masterclass that you could take things away and start applying this, either all of it or just take parts of it. This client that I spoke about with the NHS that came to do business practitioner, what he did was when they were installing some new software. It was a whole new software program. He identified the different people, and he got them to learn up in the program first, and then he set up a help desk. So he worked with he identified his main team. They were same, they were reactive, and they were external. And by just looking at these 3 meta programs, he was able to get this whole new program integrated in a few weeks compared to 2 or 3 years, and the one before still hadn't been integrated. Any comments with that? You learning new stuff? Good. I know that you wanted to learn new stuff, so that's good. And then our state. State is a combination of feelings, thoughts, physical sensation. Your life is nothing but a series of states. Being in a good state helps you listen, communicate, and learn better. We pretend we're logical, but it's a lie. Emotion overrides logic every time. You only have to watch people go through an uncomfortable change program and you will see their state change. Anchoring resourceful states in self and others. You know, an anchor is setting off a specific behavior or feeling. So it's anchoring in at the beginning. This change program is going to be easy. It's going to be different maybe to what you've done before, or it could be the same as you've done before. But if people want to do something that was really difficult for them before, you want to make it easy. Also, actually helping people anchor in a motivation state, using your voice. Handshakes if it's appropriate, you know, if you're actually in working with people. I use my voice, I use a giggle in my voice to anchor in a good state. And remember, your handshake's the most powerful anchor you'll ever have in business. Take yourself into a good state, shake someone's hand, and my goodness, they're going to remember you. So it's understanding we know about state as NLP professionals. So help people stay in a resourceful state. You have to go first. You've got to be resourceful. And these are some of the states that you can help people go into, and you can do this just by transferring your own state. And then we'll finish off here with the value model. This is the model that I put together to really help people feel valued. So the V is value. So you value people, you appreciate them, you listen to them, understand and encourage. When you value people in the change process, you're connecting with their inside world. The genuine human connection creates a strong relationship that encourages people to become engaged, motivated, and work well with each other. Now, what I will say with the value model is use these words. I really value the time that you're taking to help your team go through the change processes easily. I really appreciate all the information that you've given me. I hear you. Yeah, I'm listening. I really listen. I really want to listen, and I really hear what you're saying. I understand this is how you're feeling about something. I know you can do this. When you actually use these words back to people, sometimes people say, yes, I do value them, but I said, but do you tell them you value them? Do you tell them? I use appreciated a lot in my emails. I use valued a lot in my emails. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is how I take my clients through the change process. So what questions do we have? Any questions or any comments before we finish up? I know I've thrown a lot at you. It's recorded, so you can watch the recording. You've also got the workbook, everything that we covered there in the workbook. So let me take a few comments before we finish.
Fiona, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course you can.
It's back to the introduction around the meta programs, questioning and influencing. And I know there's a phrase you had on one of the slides about that these changes can improve relationships so that you can influence people to your way of thinking. So if I had a tenner for every time this question is asked in my sessions, it often is at this point, leaders or business people will ask, oh, well, what's the difference in influencing and manipulation? Because they feel uncomfortable using their language to bring someone around to their way of thinking. And I have my series of answers, because I believe if you're influencing with integrity, with genuine connection, well, then that's genuine and connecting and engagement.
Yeah.
And people have a built-in radar whenever someone is trying to pull the wool over their eyes or manipulate.
Yes.
So what other things do you say?
Okay, I question what manipulation means.
Yes.
Manipulation means to move.
Yes.
So to manipulate means to move. So if you're getting physiotherapy, it's really good to manipulate certain parts of the body.
Yeah. So
I'll bring in to say, but we're actually being manipulated, if you want to take it into a sort of an unconscious way. We're being manipulated all the time by the media, by people, whether we like it or not. Language is manipulating us, is moving us into different ways. So it's much better to be conscious of this, very conscious of this, and also when you're using language, to use your language very consciously to help people move in the most comfortable way for them. And yes, I bring in about ethically, and so you bring this in ethically, but I bring in, it's all to do, this is, we're starting really to realize much more with neuroscience now, how language is affecting our behavior. So we are being affected. In fact, I bring in things like watch weather forecasts. Today's going to be depressingly gloomy. And then you wonder why everyone's facing the trains all, because they've all watched a weather forecast just telling the whole lot to be depressingly gloomy. So I make a joke about it a little bit. And I also question the word manipulate, because the manipulate, there's so many different meanings. But also I bring in the fact that if you're not being genuine, people pick it up. We have a radar that will pick up in a minute, a millisecond, when someone's trying to push you in a direction you don't want to go in.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Does that help? Yeah. But I just sort of bring in sort of, right, okay, so what does manipulate mean? That's what I start with, manipulate. And also people know, we all know, and especially we're going to be covering this actually tomorrow in the sales training we're doing. It's well known in sales, you have remorse buys, where you've been pushed into a sale and then you get really annoyed about it afterwards, which means you'll never go back to them. So you were pushed into something. Of course, it's possible, and we all get pushed into things. But think of the times we're getting pushed into maybe going for a dinner with someone, or pushed in. So it's happening
once, you never do it again.
And then,
that's perfect.
And the best manipulators in the world are children.
Exactly.
So if you've got parents, if you're talking about parents, they're the best manipulators in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that answer?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Any more questions or any more feedback? Okay, thank you for your comments. Okay. Okay, so will we finish there? I'm happy to finish there if no one's got any more questions. Karen will be sending you, well, no, it says the link, if you want to just tell us where the link is for the NLP for Business workbook toolkit.
So I will paste that again into the chat now. It's a page on the ANLP website. It's in our knowledge base, and it's using NLP skills for navigating change. And that the explanation for the workshop is in there at the moment. You can download the PDF there. The additional resources that Fiona's talked about this evening, we will also be uploading there and putting the link on. And once we've just topped and tailed the video, we'll put the video on there as well, so that you can watch it again. And anybody who's missed it this evening will be able to watch it. So everything will be on that one page.
That's lovely. And can I just say again that I'm happy for you to use the information that's in the booklet. Just use it. You know, I wanted to sort of fast track maybe some people who've got to a stage they're wanting to come into business with their NLP skills, and I wanted just to show you what I use. So thank you very much to Karen and Cash for inviting me. This has been a pleasure. I hope you found this useful, and spread the word. Let's get all our stuff into business and get people really understanding. Yes, there are lots of ways that you can help things become really easy for people when you've got all this great NLP professional knowledge.
Thank you so much, Fiona. I've been scribbling on post-it notes, and splatter and value will now become part of my new language. I think there's a lot that we can apply, and it's silly because it's stuff we all know already, and just combining it and weaving it in a different way has been really, really enlightening. So thank you so much, Fiona. We really appreciate you taking the time to share that this evening, and thank you for being so generous as well with the resources that we're all going to be allowed to share. So thank you so much. And as I said, this is the first of a series, so it's exciting. We have more to look forward to. So thank you very much for turning up this evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening or going to bed, depending on where you are in the world now. And we'll see you next time.
Let's have a little wave, and we'll use this. We can use this for a screenshot. Okay. Bye. Thank you.